Okay, good evening, everyone. It's 6:50. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome to our March 13th City Council meeting. If the clerk could please call the roll.
Councilman Gary Donovan,
Councilman Gary Donovan, Councilman at Large present.
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor,
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor, Council at Large here.
Councilwoman Bridget Hosky is absent, Councilwoman Melly Garthwaite is absent, Councilwoman Sarah Aquarelli, I know is here, she just must have stepped out for a second. Councilman Mitchell Galagnano,
Councilwoman Mitchell Galagnano, 4th District. Present.
Councilwoman Robin Watt Hamilton,
Councilwoman Robin Watt Hamilton, 5th District, present.
Councilwoman Kathy Tucker,
Councilwoman Catherine Tucker, 7th District, present.
Councilman Victor Boris is absent, Councilman Robert Bruno is absent, Councilman Stephen Johnstone is absent, our Chairman Peter Mazzaro is absent, and our Acting Chairman Ronald Quagliani.
Ron Quagliani, Council at Large, present.
Okay.
Thank you, Stacy. So our first item of business is a public hearing from the Legislative Matters Committee, Communication B, from February 27, 2023 agenda from Councilman Quagliani regarding a draft ordinance limiting the use of eminent domain in the city of West Haven. I'll turn the meeting over to the acting chair of the Legislative Matters Committee, Councilman Galagnano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is now 6:52, and I would like to open the floor up to a public hearing for a draft ordinance limiting the use of eminent domain from Councilman Quagliani. So would anybody like to speak on this ordinance? So,
Barry Cohen, 232 Morgan Lane. Good evening, everyone. I would just like to first of all start by saying a very special thank you to Pat Bollettieri for your perseverance and commitment. After years of delays, this most important ordinance has been made to this council. Thank you, Councilman Quagliani, for that. Without question, I support this new ordinance, which replicates the code on the books for several years in Milford, as well as extremely similar codes in other municipalities throughout our state. However, to be clear, this proposed ordinance is more than just protecting the property right protections for our homeowners and businesses, but the requirement and the critical need to enable responsible redevelopment in our city. And I say redevelopment because, as we all know, there's not a lot of new places that you're just going to build on. You got to tear something down, you got to reclaim the land. And so we're talking about that this is going to help us have responsible redevelopment in this city. But specifically, redevelopment that will allow property owners and developers to negotiate in good faith without the undue and sometimes overreaching intervention of government. Make no mistake, if passed, the ordinance will limit this and future council's authority as it must comply with the public purposes as detailed within the code, which I think is great. However, it should be noted that the definition of public purposes, or what's more commonly used, what I read as public use, has expanded over the years, as witnessed by rulings of the U.S. Supreme Court, whereas redevelopment has been successfully argued to serve the public interest. Therefore, being realistic, we must ask ourselves not when, but if it's 1 year, if it's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, will it be upheld in the court of law? I certainly hope so, but time will tell. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen, for your comments. Would anybody else like to speak on this matter? Mrs. Bolletary.
Pat Bolletary, 215 West Walk. Thank you very much for considering this ordinance. I remember June 9th, 2015, a young woman stood in front of the West Haven Redevelopment Agency, and she told of how a realtor came to her family home and told them that they had 3 weeks to get out. And she lived on First Avenue. There were 3 generations of her family that lived there. This could happen to any of us, the way the law is written. So I'm in support of this ordinance, and I want to thank you for considering it.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else like to speak on this particular ordinance? Going once?
I do have 2 letters.
2 letters
I'm
if
sorry.
everybody's set
If
here.
everyone from the public
I
is.
apologize.
That's okay.
I was looking that way.
Yeah, you didn't know.
I just wanted to give them the. We're all set, okay. So I have 2 letters from the, that were emailed in, and one was just handed in. Dear Mayor, Chairman, and City Council members of West Haven, I'm writing to express my support for the end of eminent domain for private sectors in our city. Eminent domain is a legal process that allows the government to take private property for public use, but it often has been used for private gain, particularly by developers and corporations. A perfect example of this is the Haven Project. This project has led to the displacement of many residents and small businesses. If you go by the site today, it looks like a war-torn area with mountains of rubble and closed-off houses. I grew up in West Haven, attending Thompson Elementary School, Carrigan Middle School, and coming back after college to buy my first house and start a family in Maple Street in West Haven. I recall getting a phone call after only 10 months of buying our house. The person mentioned that we might be subjected to eminent domain as part of Phase 2 of the Haven Project. I remember that day like it was yesterday. My clothes were full of sawdust from sanding the brand new hardwood that we had just laid down. I couldn't comprehend how a private sector would be allowed and able to be forced by my house. My house was built in 1904, and we concisely made that decision to buy it, knowing that we will own a piece of history. You see, the house was a complete mess that required a complete overhaul. Plumbing, electrical, roof, sheetrock, structural repairs, and almost everything else. We were 95.6% done with all the work in the house when we received that phone call. So imagine the amount of disappointment and worry a person would have after learning such news. Our trust and faith in the town started to slowly fade away. How can the town stand up against its residents? How can they allow private sector to take over an entire neighborhood? Is this what I get for wanting to buy my first house and want to move back to West Haven? A lot of questions were on my mind and still are. As a member of this community, I believe it is essential to protect the property rights of our residents and small businesses. Eminent domain should only be used for true public purposes such as building roads, schools, or parks, and never for private development projects. The practice of taking property from individual citizens to give it to developers or corporations is not only unfair, but it also goes against the principles of democracy and the common good. Furthermore, the use of eminent domain for private development projects often results in the destruction of historic and culturally significant buildings and neighborhoods. This type of development often prioritizes profit over the needs and desires of the community, and it often leads to gentrification and displacement. Instead of using eminent domain to benefit corporations and developers, we should be focusing on preserving and enhancing the unique character and diversity of our city. In conclusion, I urge you to take action and end eminent domain for private sectors in West Haven. It is time to put the needs and rights of our residents and small businesses first, and to protect our community from the negative impacts of private development projects. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Sincerely, Mohammed Badawi. And then I have a second letter that was
Address on there.
Maple Street. I just said Maple.
Maple Street.
Yeah. And then this second letter is from Saeed Ahmed at 62 Elm Street. Dear Chairman Peter Massaro, regarding the proposed eminent domain ordinance. Dear Sir, this is Saeed Ahmed, owner of the Citgo gas station located at 62 Elm Street, West Haven. I'd like to inform you that I fully support the proposed ordinance to limit the use of eminent domain. Thanks, and sincerely yours, Saeed Ahmed. And those are the only two letters I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Stacy. Again, would anybody like to speak on this ordinance? For a second time, would anybody else like to speak on this ordinance? Third and final time? Mr. Chairman, that concludes the public hearing on the, your draft ordinance of eminent domain.
Thank you, Councilman Galignano. Well, now, next item on the agenda is the public hearing. Legislative Matters Committee, Communication M from February 13th, 2023 agenda from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi regarding the Code of Ethics ordinances, and I'll give this to Councilman Galignano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, once again. We have a public hearing on the agenda from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi regarding Code of Ethics ordinance. Would anybody like to speak on this ordinance? For a second time, would anybody like to speak on this ordinance? For a third and final time, would anybody like to speak on this ordinance? Thank you. Mr. Chairman, public session, or public speaking on this ordinance is now closed at 7:01.
Thank you, Councilman Galignano. Before we open it up to our regular public comment session, a couple of reminders. We have some upcoming meetings that if anyone's interested in. On Wednesday, March 15th, our Sustainability Committee, chaired by Councilwoman Akbarali, will be in session at 6 o'clock in this room to get an update regarding our co-collection program from DEEP. That's at 6 o'clock on Wednesday. On Thursday, the 16th at 6 p.m., Mayor Rossi will present her FY24 budget here in the council chambers. And point of information, Communication E from the 227 agenda regarding the bonding ordinance has been withdrawn. Also on Thursday, March 16th at 6 o'clock, we have battles of the meetings going on here. At the same time, you could, in the Harriet North Courtroom, there's a roundtable discussion of waste management solutions and upcoming legislation regarding Connecticut's trash crisis put on by the South Central Regional Council of Governments, if anybody would like to attend that. And lastly, but certainly not least, if we could have a moment of silence for 911 dispatcher Richard Garcia, who passed away a couple of weeks ago after a very long, courageous battle with cancer. He was a 911 dispatcher for the city and also a volunteer firefighter for the West Haven Fire Department. Thank you. Okay, we'll enter into public session. The rules are on the agenda. I think everybody's familiar with them. At this time, is there anyone from the public that would like to address the city council? For a second time, anyone from the public? Of course you could, Marge. You could take two if you'd like. Anyone from the public like to address the city council? For a second time, anyone from the, Eleanor?
Eleanor Slamba, 18 4th Avenue. And I would like to set aside a moment of my time and request, I suppose, a moment of your time to remember that it was nearly 3 years ago to the day that the conversations were going on in City Hall about this illness we were hearing about and that it had to be shut down. We had the last meetings, I think, you know, in the teens, somewhere in the teens of March 3 years ago. And in that moment, I was remembering my friend Mick, who unfortunately was one of the first documented illnesses that resulted in passing away from COVID-19. And Mick was an artist, and one of the things that he really wanted to do and said that he wanted to do was have his art in an exhibition. And we nudged him, The opportunity presented itself, and in 2019, that fall, that we had the alternative art space at Yale West Campus, he had his work in that show. So at least by the time he passed away, that wish had been fulfilled. And it's those types of experiences that that I believe wholeheartedly the arts are capable of. Even a life that's cut short can be made fulfilling, and it's one of those. COVID is the reason that we have the ARPA fund, so I wanted to put those dots together in kind of a shaking off all the details about specific buildings and construction debates. The very fact that arts and culture speaks to the heart of why we have this fund, and I really hope that that will be reflected in the allocations. I didn't go through the whole rigmarole tonight of calling a whole bunch of people to be here. You've heard from people, and a lot of them work. A lot of them have been present to make their voices heard. I've spoken to people who decided, weighing the balance of their time, energy, and emotional bandwidth, for lack of a better term, not to be here, but who feel equally strongly. So respecting and honoring all of those folks, I wanted to just remember a couple of the headlines over this past year, since we've really not only been, artists do great things, but when they come together, they really do amazing things. And coming together, we have headlines that we can be proud of, like artists put West Haven on the cultural map. Make Music Day arrives in West Haven. West Haven brightens the holiday season. Writing as Care, 5 poets bring craft and custom to West Haven. And the momentum, the spirit is there to do more, but really knowing what we have to work with is very critical and urgent at this time. Number of different spaces have arisen as options. People who may even want to be very generous and help want to have some idea of what we have to work with as a sector. And I will just submit that to say, of course, there's a number that we would like, that we think we deserve. There's also, I would just say, do what you can, please, and I hope to see that done soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lumba, for your comments. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to address the city council? For a second time, anyone from the public like to address the city council? For a third time, anyone from the public like to address the city council? Seeing none, public comment is over. Okay, we'll enter into our regular council meeting, and the first order of business is the approval of the minutes of our regular meeting from February 27th. Is there a motion? Motion by Councilwoman O'Connor, seconded by Councilman Donovan and Galignano. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion carries. I'll ask the clerk to pass out tonight's communications.
Okay, we have communication A from the tax collector regarding overpayment refunds for March 2023, which will be filed with tonight's minutes. We have communication B from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi regarding the appointment of John Nelson, 446 3rd Avenue, West Haven, to the Flood and Erosion Control Board. Mr. Nelson's appointment is to replace Carol Luddington and become effective immediately and to expire on November 24th, 2027. Being assigned to the Personnel and Civil Service Committee, which will be assigned to Councilwoman, who will be the chairwoman of the committee, Robin Watt Hamilton. Communication C from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi regarding the reappointment of Andrea Talamelli, 112 Benham Hill Road, West Haven, Connecticut, to the Water Pollution Control Commission. Ms. Talamelli's reappointment would become effective immediately and expire on December 3rd, 2023, being assigned to the Personnel and Civil Service Committee, Chairwoman Hamilton. Communication D from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi regarding the reappointment of Christy Collins, 209 Court Street, West Haven, Connecticut, to the Energy Commission. Ms. Collins' reappointment would become effective immediately and expire on February 25th, 2025, being assigned to the Personnel and Civil Service Committee, Chairwoman Hamilton. Communication E from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi regarding the appointment of Jason DiLorenzo, 29 3rd Avenue Extension, West Haven, to the Energy Commission. Mr. DiLorenzo's appointment would replace Victor M. Boris and become effective immediately and expire on February 25th, 2025, being assigned to the Personnel and Civil Service Committee, Chairwoman Hamilton. Communication F from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi regarding the reappointment of Raymond Collins IV, 209 Court Street, West Haven, to the Energy Commission. Mr. Collins' reappointment would become effective immediately and expire on February 25th, 2025, being assigned to the Personnel and Civil Service Committee, Chairwoman Hamilton. Communication G from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi regarding the reappointment of Margaret Goodwin, 246 Peck Avenue, West Haven, to the Energy Commission. Ms. Goodwin's reappointment would become effective immediately and expire on February 25th, 2026, being assigned to the Personnel and Civil Service Committee, Chairwoman Hamilton. Communication H from Joseph Perno, Chief of Police of the West Haven Police Department, regarding animal shelter donations, being assigned to the Finance Committee, and that is also being assigned by our temporary acting Chairwoman Hamilton. Communication I from Tom McCarthy, Commissioner of Public Works, regarding city-owned and operated EV electric vehicle facilities, retail charge rate and policies, being assigned to the Finance Committee, Chairwoman Hamilton. And that concludes the communications for this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Stacy. I'm going to take our agenda a little bit out of order. Since the ARPA update, Mr. Carney's on his way. So I will turn to the Finance Committee, Councilwoman Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, the time is now 7:12, and your Finance Committee is in session. The members present are Councilpersons O'Connor, Akbarelli, Quagliani, and myself as temporary chair. We have before us tonight, communication H. From Joe Perno, Chief of Police from the City of West Haven Police Department, regarding animal shelter donations. I'd like to bring that out favorably. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Sarah and O'Connor. I'm sorry. And Colleen. That's good. Okay. Is there any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We have before us communication I from Tom McCarthy, Commission of Public Works, regarding city-owned operated EV, that's electric vehicle facilities, retail charge, rate and policies. I'd like to hold this. I'm gonna refer this to Corporation Counsel and the Finance Director. Mr. Chairman, that ends the Committee on Finance. The time is now 7:14.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hamilton. Lee, if, do you have any update regarding, the past MARB meeting or the police pension study? Or Mayor, however, either way.
Well,
Yeah?
I can,
Sure.
well, we're still, I'll start with the latter, the police pension study. We are actively working on it. We are still in negotiation, so I can't share much information, but we are going to do our best to work to a good resolution for all involved. As far as The MARB meeting update, it was a relatively civil meeting. Councilwoman O'Connor was there as well. We are doing our best to move forward. We will have the budget to them shortly. Obviously, the city council gets it presented first this Thursday, and then we'll be bringing it forward to the next MARB meeting, which will be the subcommittee. And I want to say that's another week, and we'll be looking at that. So I'm trying to think, it was a pretty easy going meeting, as far as that goes, and we did go over all the items that they had asked for.
Councilwoman O'Connor, anything you'd like to add?
No, I actually thought it was gonna be a little harder, but, they did approve the 3 action items that we had. One of them was the shoreline wellness, so that sale could go through. There was 2 others, but I don't, one of them was the solar panels.
Yes.
So those are going through, they're going out to the old dump site, and then the third one was the,
I'm trying to think, it wasn't a business, there was a third one, though. There was definitely a third one.
The contract for the sewers at
yes,
Rockdale Road.
for
Right.
Rockdale Road, yes. And that went through, so it was, all in all, it was a good meeting. I didn't leave with a headache.
No?
Thank you both for the update. Okay, next up on the agenda is Legislative Matters Committee. Standing in for Councilman Bruno is Councilman Galignano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The time is 7:16. The Committee on Legislative Matters is in session. Members present are Councilwoman O'Connor and Councilwoman Akrabrowley. Sorry about that. Members absent are Councilman Boris and Councilman Bruno, and myself acting as chair. Tonight we have before us Communication B from February 27, 2023, agenda from Councilman Quagliani regarding the draft ordinance limiting the use of eminent domain in the city of West Haven. I would like to entertain a motion to bring this out favorably.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously, Mr. Chairman. On the agenda is Communication M from the February 13th, 2023 agenda from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi regarding the Code of Ethics. I would like to entertain a motion to bring this out favorably.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
I just wanted to thank the Ethics Committee yet again. Their hard work put into this is a really good first step to getting West Haven back on track and to change the culture. So, thank you, Ethics Committee.
Mayor, I saw your hand up.
Yes. I concur with everything Councilman O'Connor said. Additionally, we worked very hard, myself and Chris Fargo, to put, we believe, the right people on there that are gonna do the right thing going forward. And I think it's important that we have an ordinance, being that it really should be written down, so no one's guessing about what a violation may or may not be. And if there are any questions, they can pose those questions to the Ethics Board, and they would be happy to assist them. So again, I think this is a great step forward. I don't think we haven't touched that ordinance in decades. I mean, that was the first political appointment I had, was being on the Ethics Board back years ago under then Mayor Richard Borer. So I'm very pleased to see that we have full staff there. We have updated them. They are still current with their appointments, and I'm looking on moving forward with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Would anybody else like to comment? I would just like to say that they did it, Chris and his team did a tremendous job there. There was no doubt, and they spent a lot of time on that, so I am all in favor of a great ordinance like that, so. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Committee on Legislative Matters is now closed Oh, wait a minute. I have a communication H on mine from Councilman Garthwaite regarding SPBS proposed hunting and trapping ordinance. I would like to entertain a motion to bring this out favorably.
So we're still waiting for
Oh.
a deep response.
Okay, that's right, there was a meeting about that, right?
Right, so
I
as soon as we get a
apologize.
response, we'll have that to the council.
Okay, so we'll hold this communication. My apologies. The Committee on Legislative Matters now closed at 7:20. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Galignano. Next up is the Personnel and Civil Service Committee, Acting Chairwoman Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The time is now 7:20, and the Committee on Personnel and Civil Service is in session, and we have Councilpersons O'Connor, Quagliani, and myself as temporary chair. We have before us Communication B from Mayor Nancy Rossi regarding the appointment of John Nelson, 446 Third Avenue, West Haven, Connecticut, 06516, to the Flood and Erosion Control Board. Mr. Nelson's appointment replaces Carol Luddington and becomes effective immediately and expires on 11/24/27. I'd like to bring this out favorably. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
And any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? It passes. Thank you. We have before us Communication C from Mayor Nancy Rossi regarding the reappointment of Andrea Talamali of 112 Benham Road, West Haven, Connecticut, 06516, to the Water Pollution Control Commission. Mrs. Talamali's reappointment would become effective immediately and expire on 12/3/23. I'd like to bring this out favorably. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
So just the discussion is I questioned the date, but the mayor pointed out that the term is a 2-year term, so for the Pollution and Control Board, so the date's correct.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We have before us Communication D from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi regarding the reappointment of Christy Collins of 209 Court Street, West Haven, Connecticut, 06516, to the Energy Commission. Miss Collins' reappointment will become effective immediately and expire on 2/25/25. I'd like to bring this out favorably. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We have before us Communication E from Mayor Nancy Rossi regarding the reappointment of Jason DiLorenzo, 29 Third Avenue Extension, West Haven, Connecticut, 06516, to the Energy Commission. Mr. DiLorenzo appointment would replace Victor M. Boras and become effective immediately and expire on 2/25/25. I'd like to bring it out favorably. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We have before us Communication F from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi regarding the reappointment of Raymond Collins IV 209 Court Street, West Haven, Connecticut, 06516, to the Energy Commission. Mr. Collins' reappointment will become effective immediately and expire on 2/25/25. I'd like to bring this out favorably. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second, but then I have some discussion.
Okay. Any discussion?
Well, I'm just looking, so the agenda says 2/25/25, but the cover letter says 2/25, unless I'm on the wrong one. No, 26, so I'm just, hold on,
They should be staggered.
hold the wire. What is this for, the Energy Commission? So he's 23, and you get how many years? 3 years? 23, 26. Should be 26,
To expire on 2/25/26?
26, right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any more discussion on it? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? This communication, carries. We have before us communication G from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi regarding the reappointment of Margaret Goodwin of 246 Peck Avenue, West Haven, Connecticut, 06516, to the Energy Commission. Mrs. Goodwin's reappointment will become effective immediately and expire on 2/25/26. I'd like to bring this out favorably. Okay. There just seemed to be some discussion.
Yeah, I'm just checking the date.
We're having at 2:25.
Margaret Goodwin, she's 20, she should be, no, sure, it's the same, it's the same thing. All right, that's right.
26 is fine?
Yeah.
Great. So, no one yet? Yep.
No one yet?
Mm-mm. Right, I'd like to make a motion to bring it out favorably.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Now, I'm pretty sure that this ends our committee on personnel and civil service. The time is 7:27. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hamilton. Unfinished business, there is none. We'll jump back to the agenda for council as a whole now for ARPA updates. Ken Carney from the chairman of the ARPA committee. Ken, the floor is yours. Yeah.
I like it.
I got one.
I like it. Blind people like this.
You know, we were moving right along, I just want to tell you.
Until you came along.
project sheet is gonna be updated on the website this week, but I do have some extra copies of it. First thing I'd like to do is just kind of go over the format of the sheet, and I blew it up for everybody so you can get a better look at it. If you go to the right-hand column where the yellow is, the yellow categories are projects that are in the discretionary fund. It turns out that not a lot qualifies for ARPA funds. You're basically limited to sewer work, drain work, HVAC, creating a healthier environment for your employees and your citizens. And beyond that, you have to use the $10 million discretionary fund. And if you notice, we're basically at 9.3 million of that fund already committed. The fear is that as we get closer to the deadline, the idea of saying, okay, we have an extra $1 million, let's just throw it in paving, you can't do that. Paving doesn't qualify. And what's happening is we are going out to bid. It takes a month and a half to do that. When the low bidder is recognized from a design standpoint, it's taking upwards of 2 months to negotiate a contract. Because the ARPA compliance part of it is so complicated that these architects and engineers have to go through that with their legal team. You're talking 2 months just to get a contract for design. Then the design work is taking 4 to 6 months on these projects. Then, once the design work's done, it goes back out to bid for a vendor. That's another month to 2 months. And then you have to negotiate a contract with the vendor. So, even though we're looking at December of '24, as we get closer to that date, you gotta put a 9-month buffer before that in order to meet the deadline. There's not a scenario where we say, oh, we didn't spend this $1 million, let's just throw it towards paving so we don't give it back to the feds. That's not gonna happen. So we gotta watch this chart very carefully. If you go to page 1 of your packet, you will see an ARPA contracting checklist. So what we've done is we've taken all of the compliance part that is required to hire a vendor, and we condensed it into a checklist. And this has made things move much faster. In this particular case, this is a checklist for the engineers who are designing the, the sports building, if you will, over at Painter Park. And we go through all these different processes, and they have to qualify, they have to meet various federal requirements. We get all their information, and this is how we're handling it. If we were to be audited today, we literally would have a checklist for every single vendor. We're crossing every T and dotting every I. If you turn the page, this is the final version of that checklist on page 2, and this is what we're using now for any vendor that wants to work for ARPA funds for the city of West Haven. That could be a $1,000 job or a $1 million job. This checklist has to be achieved, and we're doing that across the board. The other thing that I want to point out is that the city has implemented a PO system. That system takes the place of the old payment voucher system, okay? And the result of that is that vendors are getting paid within 14 days. Under the old system, we would put in an invoice, and all of a sudden, finance would be running around trying to find out who is this vendor, did they go through the proper steps, do we have their insurance, do we have their W-9, on and on and on. Now what happens is when the PO is written, all of that is captured. And when we submit an invoice, we back it up with a purchase order, and vendors are getting paid literally in 2 weeks. And things are not falling through the cracks. So that's helping out considerably. Starting with the project sheet, the ARPA Act financial management, we've spent $235,000 to date. That includes the creation of form contracts, which makes life much easier. We don't have to go and negotiate a new contract with every single vendor. We say to them, this is the contract we're going to follow. We don't have to create a new contract. This includes all of our attorney fees. There's some miscellaneous vendor fees in there as well. The child development roof, the specs and design and plans are complete, and that is ready to go out to bid. The Parks Fund, we've spent roughly 25% of that fund. And actually, I just got permission to do yard signs to show the public where all this money's going. So when you drive by a park, you'll see a sign, this was done at this park, paid by ARPA funds. Because a lot of work is being done at parks. There's been a lot of deferred maintenance on city-owned structures. We have numerous parks that you could not get into because it was too muddy, or the trees were in the way, or brush wasn't taken away. All that's being addressed, and we've spent 25% already doing that. Sure.
You were gonna get back to us on, to make sure that all the parks that had been identified were in progress, and I haven't heard anything back on the 7th.
There's a report in the book for you tonight on that.
Okay.
Yep, I'll get to that.
Thank you.
Food bank. So each recipient has to sign a subrecipient contract. That contract is about 31 pages long. They need to take that to their attorney, and then there's back and forth. There's questions, there's answers that are given, there's a little bit of negotiation. Right now, the 3 recipients have their contracts. They're in various stages of being signed. The exception is the Board of Ed. They're considered not a subrecipient. They're a part of the city. They've already deployed their funds. As I've mentioned before, the way that was advertised originally was incorrect, and the result was we had to go back out to bid in order to prove that that we did not exclude companies or organizations outside of West Haven in order to qualify. When we went back out to bid, we came up with, if you go to page 16, we came up with, we received 3 different additional applications. So the first application is First Lutheran Church. They're asking for $15,000, and their application is here. If you go to the next application, which is on page, one second, page 24. This is the Wheat Inc. They're asking for $108,000. And the last application, which is on page 36, this is the West Haven Community House. They're asking for $40,000. Now, the ARPA committee is not going to deep dive these applications unless there's a willingness of the council to take $175,000 out of reserve and apply it to the food bank. That's where that money would have to come from. So the original applicants are not allowed to apply a second time. These are 3 new applicants that if the council wants to entertain, 175 would be the max, and it certainly could be less than that. But if you give the ARPA committee additional funds, we will do the same process that we did with the first applicants, which is deep dive their applications, interview them, and award the funds. Okay. If you choose to do that, there's actually a motion in your packet that you could use to do that. So that's the story on food. Any questions on the food part? Sure.
So the balance that we had on it, excluding the 3 applicants that already were awarded, is 175,
No. So you awarded 400,000 originally.
right?
Roughly 100,000 that has been spent. But that money's committed. We can't change those funds.
100,000 was originally.
We're saying that take the 400,000 and add 175 to it, and that'll bring 3 additional applicants into the group of 4 that we presently have,
Gotcha, thank you.
if that makes sense. Yes, sir.
So you, the 175, but the three don't add up to 175, it's less.
I think they do, actually. It's, you take 108, 40, and 15. Puts you just about at 175, I believe.
148,
Yeah, because the total grant is 40,000.
163 I'm getting, but unless I'm not adding wrong. I just didn't know what the extra,
163, yeah, you might be right, 163, yeah. I think you're right.
so what would the
We
extra
would only
12
spend, we would only spend up to the amount of this grant. Anything, the max we could spend is what these three grants add up to. We would put back in contingency what we didn't spend. So,
Have we
so
put
you,
anything back in contingency yet?
we haven't done enough projects.
Projects to do that yet?
Yeah, that's correct.
So the total amount for food would be 575,000?
563 apparently, yes.
563,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Out of the whole $30 million budget. I think these three organizations are well-known. I don't know why they didn't apply the first time, maybe they missed it. But certainly there's a need there, and we do have the money in contingency to service that, if the council wishes to do that.
Where was the first Lutheran church from? Outside of West Haven?
The first group?
The first Lutheran church, where are they from? I mean, did we get any out of,
George Street.
so they're in West Haven, these
Yeah.
are still West Haven
Yes.
organizations?
Yeah, what it
Okay.
does is it proves our point that we gave outside of West Haven.
Yes.
Because we advertise this pretty well.
Yep,
So this sort of proves, now the first group will apply for ARPA because of this.
thank you.
Any more questions on the food part? Okay. Next, I have the Johnson Senior Roof Center. I'm sorry, the Johnson Senior Center. We met with the architects and the end users there a couple weeks ago. That is in design and going well. The DPW paving has been expended, so that's 100%. Stormwater feasibility study. So we have spent $113,000 in matching funds in order to capture state and federal grants for larger stormwater projects. And that was always the plan. And that's all we spent to date on that. The Stormwater Capital Fund is actually part of that, so those two line items should be combined. The stormwater vacuum truck, I called last week. They've committed to an April delivery, the first week of April. We'll have the vac truck. Stormwater problem areas. We have $1.4 million for that. If you go to page 8, I'm sorry, go to page 7. So this is an example of about 15 reports that I have spread across the city. And what this says is it's Swampscott and Ellsworth storm and sewer easement. The area is a sewer and storm easement. This area is prone to flooding during rain events. During the field investigations, we found 2 drainage outfalls completely blocked and not draining at all. And that is the consistent story that we're finding all over town, is that we don't need a big giant system installed. We really need to address the deferred maintenance on these pipes. A lot of these pipes have been buried over the years. A lot of these pipes exist between yards. Homeowners over the years have filled them in to extend their yard, if you will, and then it floods because nothing gets to the pipe. And Swampscott is a good example of that. At the end of Ellsworth Street, the outfall pipe for the basins on the street was buried with silt and debris, possibly from snowplows pushing to the end of the road. If you go to the next page, removed 25 feet of 15-inch black plastic pipe due to it being completely filled with dirt and debris. So here's an example of a pipe that isn't working, that's 25 feet. I've got other reports of 200 feet of pipe completely filled with debris that we've cleaned up. They dug a culvert to allow water to flow into the retention area for stormwater. So they rented a machine that cost $2,600 a month, a small little excavator that allows this work to be done. We have since purchased an excavator for them for $71,000, and that is being delivered to the city this week. And then they're gonna go back and start doing these jobs again. Also on Swampscott, in the middle of Ellsworth and Norwell Street, there's a pipe that goes under the road to take groundwater from the properties, but has no structural inlet, just a pipe buried in the stone. I cleared this enough to allow it to flow, and also clear the outfall from this pipe, which was also buried. This intersection of street needs to be maintained due to snow plowing. It is overcome with road silt and debris. And if you turn the page, you go to 9, you see the pictures. You can see the pictures of the pipe that they dug up to solve flooding issues. And if you go to page 15, there's a picture of the machine that's being delivered this week. And this entire mini project is like 15 man-hours with the machine. So for 15 man-hours, they go in. We're reimbursing the city at $48 an hour. They're gonna have the machine now, and they're solving flooding problems. And I've got 15 more of these.
Ken, what department does the work?
It's, you know, I deal with Mike O'Brien, so I'm not really clear on that part of it. Mike does the reports, he signs the time cards. It's unclear to me if he works for Public
Water
Works or
pollution, I
Water
think,
Pollution, yeah. But I'm just happy it's being done, you know?
So how about, and listen, I would agree, this is probably neglected for a long, long time.
Yeah.
I think this is a snapshot of what you're gonna find around the rest of the city. So how about the handoff? So I'm concerned about after they go in and then fix this, does it should appear on somebody's work order list that next year at this time, we need to go back and check, or whatever the frequency is. So I don't want this to be one and done, and then in 10 years, somebody's sitting here and saying, geez, look at that pipe's clogged, and,
Sure.
you know, so there needs to be a handoff.
Yeah, I don't know how successful that's gonna be, but I will tell you this, when you read the reports I have, he refers to, we found this pipe, it wasn't on our list, we're adding it to our list. I'm seeing a lot of that going on. I can't tell you it's gonna happen in 10 years, but I can tell you that because of deferred maintenance, there's flooding all over the city. And a small machine with a talented person can come in and solve a lot of these flooding problems for not a lot of money, and it's happening. So,
Ken,
Yeah.
if I may. So we haven't had any like really heavy rainfalls since these have been cleaned, have we? Because the test is really, are people getting flooded?
well, listen, there's a lot, I see what you're saying, but if you take a pipe that's filled
No,
with debris, and
no doubt.
no matter how much rain you get, it's
That's
gonna
right.
help. Is it solve all the flooding problems? No. But if we can get these pipes opened up, we can get these retention ponds fixed up, we can get things flowing again, I think you're gonna see a major difference.
And how many more? Because this is wonderful.
I got 14 more at the office,
Okay.
yeah,
And are they're, of course, they're citywide.
correct.
And of course, you've been hearing about the Lydia Street area.
Mhm.
Is there anything that's going on and that might relieve some of those folks in that area? Because I'm very happy about Swampscott
Sure.
Street.
Yeah.
I am.
I don't have anything to report on Lydia tonight. I've heard some things, but it's not verified. There's been a pause of doing this because of the sewer break.
Oh,
And that's,
okay.
so everyone's been there for the last 2 months. But now this machine's coming in this week, and there'll be an uptick of hitting these areas again, and then I'll have a better report for you.
So is it, like, are we gonna stop because, well, we're gonna go as long as the funds will let us go?
We've got, yes, and well, not only that, you're doing the heavy special project work with these funds. The follow-up is very inexpensive, because you're not using a machine, you're not digging things up, you're not finding pipe, you're just basically doing some basic clearing. And a lot of these pipes have got a screen or a grate on them that get clogged. It's a matter of just going and removing that to reopen the pipe. What they're finding is the screen broke 20 years ago,
It got clogged.
and the thing is completely clogged for 25, 50 feet, and nothing's happening, and yards are flooding.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to just continue the path. I think there'll be some excitement with this new machine. These guys are doing a great job. I'd like to continue that path and keep reporting to you. In the meantime, there is an engineering company, CDM I think they're called, who's doing a citywide study on all the rivers and all the drainage, and ARPA's paying for that, and that's in the works. So they're going sort of at the same time.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the flooding?
You said we bought this machine, so we'll have it now as part of our arsenal in case
Yeah.
things happen again.
Yeah, and we spec the machine that the city truck can pull around without having to buy a new truck. They have a place on Forest Road to keep it inside. They've got the equipment to move this thing around and treat it properly. So,
Thank you.
okay. Great. Any other questions on the flooding?
No, but thank you for that report. It's helpful.
No, thank you for allowing the funds, giving the funds to make this happen. So the recycling center has been handled by Doug up to this point. I got some cliff notes on it today, and I will have some more information for you at my next report.
Ken, do you think this is a project that's gonna come to fruition before the deadline?
I do. I'm hearing that they're surveying Helm Street to put this thing in, and there's some issues with the survey. It's unclear to me standing here if we own all the land that we need to put this on. I won't know that for a couple days. But I think if I can get through that, I do a phase 1 study, we get through that, we could get this thing moving. I've got a commitment from the engineer that his design is a 30-day design, and the permit is a 3-month permit process from DEEP. So I think we can make this happen. If it looks like it's falling apart, I'll come to you in plenty of time to reallocate those funds. Last thing I want to do is, send money back to the Fed, so I'll keep reporting on this.
Well, and I think this is a necessary piece of our collection strategy going, in the next few years, regular waste, recycling, and this type of, reuse center where people could drop things off. So I think I'm interested in that because I think it's important. It's hard to be successful without some type of reuse center like this.
Yeah, in the center, it takes the place of bulk trash pickup. There'll be a charity down there collecting things that could be resold or given away. It'll create some jobs. They'll accept tires and mattresses. So it's a good plan. You just got to get through the compliance part of it.
I have a quick question, Helen.
Sure.
Is there gonna be a pickup service?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
Yeah, I just know the construction end of it. I don't know how they're going to, implement it
Right.
citywide.
For something like a mattress or
Yeah.
something that
Yeah.
you can't fit in your car to drive
Right,
to
right.
the recycling center.
You put it on top. You hold it with your hand.
Yeah. Right.
On the highway. All right, so moving on to the child pedestrian safety. At the last meeting, the last 2 pages are back in this book, and they're page 4 of 57 and 5 of 57. So what we're asking for is $7,912.03 out of contingency to cover all the invoices on the sidewalks. We went over budget about 0.5%, and there were some safety issues that the contractor had to perform. So we sort of need to move those funds over to pay these guys. $7,912.03. And the motion has been written by the ARPA attorney, and it's here for your consideration.
Continue.
Okay. City Hall windows. The evaluation and walkthrough has occurred. We went to every single room in City Hall, and the bid for a contractor to install the windows will go out to bid the end of May. That's the schedule given to us by the architects. The fire districts are all doing different things with their ARPA funds. I think West Shore is leading the pack right now. They grabbed one of the ARPA architects, if you will, that went through the bidding process, and they're actually already producing invoices for design on their stations. There's a meeting coming up, I believe, on the 21st, where we will meet with all the 3 fire districts and ask them where they are in their process. The boardwalk camera monitoring, that bid is going out to a vendor at the end of this month. We met with the police a couple times. They're very happy with the basis of design, with the proposed equipment, where it's going to go along the beach, and those specs are done, and it's getting ready to go out to bid. Next, I got the Youth Employment Fund, that we're just gathering paperwork to meet all the ARPA compliance on that. Painter Park Field House is in design. EMS pay, I think everybody knows what's going on there. Police and EMS, they mix this up a little bit, so the police protection is actually the gas mask, and the EMS got bulletproof vests and helmets. I actually went down to the vendor. I took pictures of the boxes of the equipment. I opened up the boxes, I saw the plates, I saw the jackets, I saw the helmets, and with that, we authorized payment of, it's actually $48,255. Meeting room cameras, we went out to bid a second time, and we had 4 really good vendors show up, and that is for this room, the Harriet North room, and the 3rd floor conference room. And we had some interesting ideas passed around, and those bids, I believe, open up on March 23rd. So they're coming up. Demolition of Beach Street is complete, and vendor was paid within 7 days.
Beach Street Skate Park.
Skate park, yeah. Vendor was paid immediately. The Housing Crisis Grant Fund, a contract has been signed, I believe, and we will be receiving invoices for those services from, I believe it's Columbus House, monthly, and we'll pay them as they come in.
Ken, did you have a presentation for actually what the actual scope of work? I know that we had an initial one and kind of an overview of what the agency's going to do and the boots on the ground person is going to do. So will you call them in like 6 months and kind of get a status report and maybe let us know if we want to attend, because I think some of us would like to see how that particular initiative is working out.
Yeah, we had Olivia come in and give us the whole rundown. We felt very good about it, but they'll be coming. I think in their contract they have to come before the committee to deliver their invoices, so we'll see it on the agenda. Haley School ramp is in need of an engineer to design that, and that is in the works. The track and field is in design. Savin Rock Playscape is scheduled for late April, early May. That would be the groundscape painting as well as the replacement of the vandalized parts on the playscape and the new mulch. The Noble Community Center HVAC, we asked the architect to run that through his contract. He did a change order, and now they're designing the new rooftop units for the community center, which will allow us to proceed with the roof. I'm told that City Hall is getting together bids for their electrical needs. Kerrigan boilers and repiping, we have an engineer working on that. One of the things that they're looking at is the possibility of putting in heat pumps in every single classroom. Amity High School has that system, and every classroom would have its own AC and its own heat. And that may be less costly than replacing all the pipes in the school with new boilers. So that was kind of interesting, so we're working through that. And then we have the emergency bleacher repair at Veterans Field. That is going out to bid. And then in the reserve projects, we have the aid to small business. So UHY has given us what other cities and towns are doing. And we sort of copied that, and that is in your book somewhere. Let me find that. So I believe it starts on page 46. So the way this program works is if a landlord brings in a new business and they sign a long-term lease, they're given some relief on the rent. If a lease is renewed for long-term, they're given relief on the rent. And in both cases, there has to be tax returns that show that these landlords were hurt by COVID. And that's audited by UHY. So it's a little bit above the ARPA committee's ability. We'll still approve it and do the necessary steps, but UHY is gonna analyze those tax returns and get back to us to see if they qualify. So that's a long process, and there's a lot of people calling on that, big and small. If the council wants to consider moving that to an active project, I can begin that process. And there's a motion written by the ARPA attorney in this packet that allows you to do that if you so choose. And that's basically the report for tonight.
Ken, what about, I'm sorry, Chairman.
No, go right ahead.
The Arts Center. Is it-
So I've
are you
got-
cutting, is this all of a sudden now getting cut out, or?
No, if you look in reserve, we have $500,000 in for the Arts Center. No, I'm sorry, Arts, not Arts Center, it should say Arts, donation. Did you say that?
So the Art Center Phase 2 construction,
Yes, that would be changed to, arts funding for the arts. It wouldn't go to construction. Now, that being said, other cities, have created, applications, nationwide, by the way, for the arts to receive money in their discretionary fund. And UHY will create that application when the council wants to appropriate the money to the arts. But it won't go for construction. It'll work like the food bank, where we'll put an ad out. Anyone can apply, providing they're serving West Haven arts. They could be from out of town, by the way, but they'd be serving West Haven arts. And they would make a request and present a program, and then the ARPA committee would analyze that and award based on that.
You all set?
Yeah, thank you.
Councilwoman Tucker?
Ken, can you go back to the parks and the ones that are in the 7th district and
Yeah, I think I have that report in here.
Update on
Let me see where it is. Did you see it in here?
I didn't see it.
If I put it in there? There's a lengthy report, about 6 pages long, of all the parks. I'll email it to you tomorrow.
All right, is the 7th included?
Yes, of course it is. Yep, you'll see it on there.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, Ernie did a report, and I guess didn't make a booklet here, I apologize.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, Ken, my recommendation is that since you have a couple items you brought in front of us tonight, we have some projects in the reserve and some other projects that I think we need to deliberate. So I'm gonna ask the chairman to consider calling an ARPA committee meeting either for the 22nd or the 29th of March, both on a Wednesday night. So if we could get a quorum, I think that'll be a good night for us to roll up our sleeves and kind of commit to some projects and funding.
29th, I don't think I'll be here.
22nd?
I think I'm good on the 22nd, yeah. If, I'll email you tomorrow? if
Yep.
you don't mind. Good, okay.
So you gotta tell yourself.
Oh,
Send a note to yourself.
Somewhere in the next couple of weeks, if you could put your availability.
Yeah, of course.
Please. Any other questions of Ken? Ken, thank you very much for giving us an update this evening.
Thank you.
Okay, the council will enter into committee reports. If the clerk would read communication A into the record.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we have communication A from the tax collector regarding overpayment refunds for the month of March 2023, which will be filed with tonight's minutes.
Thank you, Stacy. Okay, first committee. You ready there, Councilman? We got a lot of work tonight, so. All right, first committee to be heard from is the Finance Committee, Councilwoman Hamilton.
Okay. The time is 8:05. And to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Finance, to whom was referred the matter of the animal shelter donation, reports that the committee met on the 13th of March 2023 to consider said matter. It is the yes, thank you, unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, the West Haven Police Department received the following donations totaling $1,096.70 for the animal shelter per Connecticut Statute 7-148 C3 A and B, in General Order 98-04. We are forwarding these donations for approval. The City Council of West Haven, Connecticut hereby approves animal shelter donations to be deposited into the animal donation account 1010000-28285. Angela Russo, $100. Florence L. Palermo, $25. Angela Russo, $100. Denise H. Mortensen, $25. Andrew William Skodnick, $25. Susan E. Aubrey, $25. Leo M. Selicka Jr., $20. Angela Russo, $100. Pat M., $50. Stop and Shop, $202. Barbara Brown, $10. Barbara Brown, $10. Milford Board of Education, $337.50. Front Steam SPV LLC, $67.20.
Councilwoman Hamilton brought forward communication aids from Chief Joseph Perno of the West Haven Police Department regarding animal shelter donations. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Galignano. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Communication I, to the Honorable City Council of the City of West. Oh, it is being held. Yes, thank you. That's being held, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hamilton.
And that ends, oh, I guess, do you say that ends it?
We don't have to say anything.
I don't, thank you.
Next up is the Legislative Matters Committee, Councilman Galignano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Communication B to the Honorable
You're not in the
City
committee.
Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Legislative Matter, to whom was referred the ordinance limiting the use of eminent domain in the City of West Haven, reports that the committee met on the 13th day of March 2023 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. 8-128 to 8-133 eminent domain. Within the territorial limits of the City of West Haven, no owner-occupied residential real property consisting of 4 or fewer dwelling units may be acquired by eminent domain for economic development purposes pursuant to General Statute 8-128 to 8-133, inclusive if the resulting project will be privately owned or controlled. Nothing contained herein shall be construed to the limit the use of eminent domain powers for public purposes, including but not limited to the construction of sewers, highways, sidewalks, right-of-way, flood, shore and erosion control purposes, public building, or for any other transaction where the property right acquired will be held controlled by the city of West Haven. This section shall not conflict with any subsequently enacted state law on this subject matter.
Councilman Galignano has brought forward communication B from the February 27, 2023 agenda from Councilman Quagliani regarding a draft ordinance limiting the use of eminent domain in the city of West Haven. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Akbarali. Is there any discussion? So I have some discussion. So the reasoning I brought forward this draft ordinance is eminent domain is really an extraordinary governmental power that really should be used judiciously. It should not be used for private profit, private development profit, and it should not be used when the city has no control over what's going to be happening on that property. So I do think eminent domain is an appropriate tool for public use, roads and schools and bridges and so forth, but I do not believe that private development is an appropriate use for eminent domain. So that's why I brought the draft ordinance in front of this body, and I appreciate your support. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And then motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have communication M to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Legislative Matters, to whom was referred the Code of Ethics Ordinance. Reports that the committee met on the 13th day of March 2023 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. X1 Declaration of Policy Summary. A. Public service is a public trust, and the trust of the public is essential for the government to function effectively. Those who are elected, appointed, hired, or volunteer as representatives accept a public trust. The public has a right to expect that every official and employee, whether appointed or elected, paid or unpaid, will behave in a manner that will tend to preserve public confidence and foster respect for the government the official or employee represents. Therefore, every official and employee is expected to treat all citizens in an impartial, honest, responsible, open, and courteous manner at all times. B. Public trust also requires that the government be conducted in an open manner when appropriate, so that the official actions of the public servants may be subject to public scrutiny, and so the members of the public may have access to information upon which decisions and policies affecting them are made. However, public trust also requires the government be conducted in a manner which respects the rights of its constituents to privacy and confidentiality. Public trust also requires the acts which are contrary to the public interest be defined and prohibited, that there be an orderly procedure for raising and addressing ethical questions, that ethical behavior be encouraged and that unethical behavior be discouraged, suitably disciplined through the process that is fair and equitable. C. Officials and employees make government policies and decisions following proper procedure and through the proper channels of government. Policies and decisions shall be their office of employment in the best interest of the city, its residents, and its taxpayers, rather than for personal interest, and avoid both actual potential conflicts between their individual and self-interest and the public interest. D. City employees, elected officials, and appointed board and commission members are expected to adhere to high ethical standards in the performance of their duties as officials and employees. Officials and employees are expected to treat everyone, other officials and employees, taxpayers, residents, and the general public as a whole, with the utmost dignity and respect. However, by accepting the duties and obligations of public service officials and employees, particularly those who volunteer their time and talents to help make West Haven a better city, and do not relinquish their right to be treated with the same dignity and respect as other citizens. E. The principal policy which forms the foundation of this chapter is to encourage internal commitment by establishing and maintaining a work environment which supports integrity, such as an environment includes public servants who, one, recognize the gratitude that the primary reason to hold a public position is to serve the public. Two, recognize with pride that they hold their public position because the public trusts them. Three, are fair and impartial in serving the public in the performance of their duties. Four, are familiar with their principles of ethics. And five, encourage ethical practices which protect, advance, and promote the public interest above all else. X2, applicability. A, this code shall apply to all current officials and employees, whether elected or appointed, paid or unpaid, full or part-time, as well as former officials and or employees when specifically stated in this code. B, if one of the more sections or provisions of this code conflicts with any state or federal law, statute, rule, city charter, regulation, or order of any court competent jurisdiction, the law, statute, rule, city charter, regulation, or court order shall prevail. C, if any section, subsection, paragraph, sentence, clause, or phase of this code is, for any reason, held to be unconstitutional, invalid, or ineffective by any court of competent jurisdiction, such decision shall not affect the validity or effectiveness of the remainder of this code, which shall remain valid, applicable, and in effect. Areas of focus: gifts outside employer or business, conflicts of interest, nepotism, periodic disclosure of ownership of real estate and business interest, whistleblower protection.
Councilman Galignano's brought forward communication M from the February 13th, 2023 agenda from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi regarding the Code of Ethics ordinance. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman O'Connor. Is there any discussion? Councilman Donovan?
Sure.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries. Thank you, Councilman Galignano, for reading that.
That concludes your business on legislative matters, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Galignano. And just for the record, Communication H from the January 23rd agenda has been held. Next up is the Personnel and Civil Service Committee. Back to Councilwoman Hamilton.
Okay, we have Communication B to the Honorable City Council of West Haven, Connecticut. Your Committee on Personnel and Civil Service, to whom was referred the matter of the appointment of John Nelson, 446 3rd Avenue, West Haven, Connecticut, 06516, to the Flood and Erosion Control Board. Reports that the committee met on the 13th of March, 2023 to consider the matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved. The City Council of West Haven hereby approves the appointment of John Nelson, 446 3rd Avenue, West Haven, Connecticut, 06516, to the Flood Erosion Control Board. Mr. Nelson's appointment would replace Carl Lunnington and become effective immediately and expires on November 24th, 2027.
Councilwoman Hamilton's brought forward Communication B from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi regarding the appointment of John Nelson. That was read into the record. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Tucker. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Okay. We have Communication C to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Personnel and Civil Service, to whom was referred the matter of the reappointment of Andrea Talamali, 112 Benham Road, Hill Road, West Haven, Connecticut, 065, to the Water Pollution Control Commission. The reports that the committee met on the 13th of March, 2023 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, the City Council of West Haven hereby approves the reappointment of Andrea Talamali, 112 Benham Hill Road, West Haven, Connecticut, 06516, to the Water Pollution Control Commission. Mrs. Talamali's reappointment would be effective immediately and expire on December 3rd, 2023.
Councilwoman Hamilton's brought forward Communication C from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi regarding the reappointment of Andrea Talamali. That was read into the record. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman O'Connor. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion carries.
Communication D to the Honorable City Council, the City of West Haven, your Committee on Personnel and Civil Service, to whom was referred the matter of the reappointment of Christy Collins, 209 Court Street, West Haven, Connecticut, 06516, to the Energy Commission, reports that the committee met on the 13th of March 2023 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, the City Council of the City of West Haven hereby approves and appointment of Christy Collins, 209 Court Street, West Haven, Connecticut, 06516, to the Energy Commission. Ms. Collins' reappointment will be effective immediately and expire on February 2025.
Councilwoman Hamilton's brought forward Communication D from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi regarding the reappointment of Christy Collins. That was read into the record. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Donovan. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion carries.
Communication E to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Personnel and Civil Service, to whom was referred the matter of the appointment of Jason DiLorenzo, 29 3rd Avenue, West Haven, Connecticut, 06516, to the Energy Commission, reports that the committee met on the 13th of March 2023 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, the City Council of the City of West Haven hereby approves the appointment of Jason DiLorenzo, 29 3rd Avenue, West Haven, Connecticut, 06516, to the Energy Commission. Mr. DiLorenzo appointment would replace Victor M. Boris, would be effective immediately and expire on February 25, 2025.
Councilwoman Hamilton's brought forward Communication E from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi regarding the appointment of Jason DiLorenzo. That was read into the record. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Galignano. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion carries.
Great. Communication F to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Personnel and Civil Service, to the whom were referred the matter, the reappointment of Raymond Collins, the 4th, 209 Court Street, West Haven, Connecticut, 06516, to the Energy Commission, reports that the committee met on the 13th of March 2023, considered said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, the City Council of the City of West Haven hereby approves the reappointment of Raymond Collins, the 4th, 209 Court Street, West Haven, Connecticut, 06516, to the Energy Commission. Mr. Collins' reappointment will be effective immediately and expire February 25th, 2026.
Councilwoman Hamilton's brought forward Communication F from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi regarding the reappointment of Raymond Collins IV. That was read into the record. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman O'Connor.
He's a Republican, I had to.
All right, that was discussion. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Communication G to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Personnel and Civil Service, to whom was referred the matter of reappointment of Margaret Goodwin, 246 Peck Avenue, West Haven, Connecticut, 06516, to the Energy Commission. Reports that the committee met on 13th of March, 2023, to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, the City Council of the City of West Haven hereby approves the reappointment of Margaret Goodwin, 246 Peck Avenue, West Haven, Connecticut, 06516, to the Energy Commission. Ms. Goodwin reappointment would be effective immediately and expire on February 25th, 2026.
Councilwoman Hamilton has brought forward Communication G from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi regarding the reappointment of Margaret Goodwin, as was read into the record. Is there a second?
Second.
Second? You
Oh,
can't do
I
that.
can't, I withdraw my second.
Second by Councilwoman Aquarelli. Is there any discussion? Oh, you didn't second that?
No.
Oh, Councilwoman O'Connor, sorry.
But I can share.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion carries.
And that concludes the Personnel and Civil Service.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hamilton. Adoption of ordinances previously presented. We approved two this evening. Are there any council liaison reports? Councilwoman O'Connor?
I know the Earl Mason Library is going to be having a book sale in June, and it's exciting because they haven't had one in a long time, so there'll be a lot of really good books there. As soon as I know the exact date, I'll let you know.
Thank you, Councilwoman O'Connor. Any other council liaison reports? Seeing none, is there any new business? Seeing no new business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Councilman Galagnano, seconded by Councilwoman O'Connor. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.